Well, it's Sunday, and my schedule is completely messed up. I tried to get it back on track, and then I had a thing with one of my friend's birthdays, and I didn't get to record like I wanted to, so everything got pushed back a day after the kerfuffle with the intro, and then that, and so what today I would have been recording. Actually, today I would have loved to have uploaded another like off day video, just like mental rest day 2, in the effort of getting back on a schedule where Monday is gym therapy, Wednesday or Thursday is gym therapy, and then like Saturday or Sunday is the rest day. We're gonna do another gym therapy. So today's Sunday. I'm gonna upload this on Monday, and that's just a solution. So if anyone's wondering why this is a third gym therapy in a row, that's why. But today we are going to be talking about I didn't really think about this topic a whole lot, but today's Father's Day. And I see all kinds of posts from people on Father's Day and all kinds of things that make me squirm in my skin. Some of those being I really don't take I really don't like when people take credit for things they're not. Like, all the power in the world to single mothers, all the power in the world to single fathers. But you have your own day already. Let moms have their day, let dads have their day. Mind your own business, right? It's like people's constant need for attention and validation. So maybe that's today's topic. At first, I was thinking about like weaponized trauma, because there's a post in particular from someone I know that really kind of got me thinking as I briefly scrolled Facebook today. But perhaps it's more so society's need for validation, be it from strangers, your friends, maybe even yourself. So I think we're just going to yap a bit about that topic. I'll see what kind of sticks as we're going through it all, and that will kind of determine what I end up titling it. But I think even with the post on the weaponized trauma, it's still like validation centric. Like, I don't want to tell this story too soon, right? We're in the car. We gotta leave some content for the gym. I'm sure you've noticed in your life, right? You might have gone through something, you might be going through something, and you talk to someone about it, and their immediate response is to tell you about how they have an equally uh, troubling experience that they want to share, instead of like being present and talking to you about whatever it is you're going through because you prompted this conversation and you were looking for guidance and maybe support or whatever it is. They're immediately like, oh, but when I was in third grade, a crocodile crawled up the beach when I was on vacation with my friends and my crush, and the crocodile bit me on my shin, and because I cried really loudly, my crush got the ick, and then he never talked to me again. It's like, bro, nobody asked. Can I have a moment about me for just a second, right? Like, my heart goes out to you in your third grade experience. But like, I started this conversation. So I guess that's kind of what we're talking about, why we might do it, how to successfully pivot around those things. Because nothing makes you feel less heard than when you try to speak about some stuff and then immediately you have to hear about someone else's stuff. So that's kind of the topic of today. Also, just like people who just are like, man, I have trauma. Let me remind you all the time in a serious manner. Now, I have trauma, and I remind people all the time in a joking manner because I think it's funny. And if any of my friends ever said, hey, Chris, that bothers me, please stop talking about how your family beat you ruthlessly, aggressively for weeks on end, I would stop. Because I'm trying to, I guess, they're my friends, and I'm talking to them frequently, and I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. I think dark humor, especially when it revolves around me, because it's my stuff, nobody can tell me my dark humor is inappropriate, because, like, fella, I went through this, okay? Let me joke about what I want to joke about. But if it made my friends uncomfortable, under that aspect of it, I would back off a little bit, because we want to be respectful of the people around us, especially the people around us that we say we care about. But there's others who are like, man, this bad thing happened to me, and I'm going to remind you Uh, every time possible, I am depressed. It sucks. Man, and it's the people who are just like, man, I'm going through it. Nobody message me. Like, why are you posting it publicly if you don't want anyone to message you? It's kind of weird. But I guess that's what we're going to talk about. I don't want to invalidate anyone's feelings here. I do think it's kind of funny, those people who are just like edgelording in real life, but doing it for attention, because they like to seem mysterious. So while I think the actions are funny, perhaps the trauma is not. So I just want to separate that right now before I get canceled. So we're gonna pack this up. It is a leg day. We're gonna head in there. We're gonna do our best to hit legs like we always do. See you there. All right, had to do a little set at weight for the gram to announce that there's gonna be a video tomorrow. So we're only gonna do 2 working sets because I just did the first one, which is why you might be wondering, dang, why is he out of breath? He hasn't even done anything. That's right. I really, in my last recording, noticed that I really liked the audio quality that I got when I was holding the microphone. So I think I might make more of an effort to do that. The post in question that kind of got me on this rabbit hole of what I wanted to speak on today was a Facebook post about this individual who unfortunately lost his father 6 months to a year ago. And my condolences. You know, it sucks to lose someone that you care about who's important to you. And it's, losing a parent might be one of the most difficult things you can go through. I think my camera's kind of tilted. Let me even it out a bit. Alright, it's a bit better. So the post was, I pulled it up for reference. I'm going to paraphrase. But it says, leave me alone. You mean well. I know that, but don't. I'm already pretty disassociated. Thanks. I love you. In reference to this individual who lost someone this year. My question is, why are you posting that? It feels very attention seeking. If you don't want people to message you, deactivate your Facebook. Just kind of announcing it publicly is just like reminding everyone, hey, I went through something traumatic and I'm emotional. Please look at me. Please pay attention to me. Please, nobody message me. God, that would be so terrible if someone messaged me when I was sad or upset and could believably use some help. And maybe it's my lack of empathy. I can totally understand that. I had, of course, an interesting upbringing that is not close to what I would say is the norm. So perhaps my opinions on this kind of behavior might not be the best ones. Let's get a set. Jesus Christ, it's hard. Alright. I'm probably not going down as deep as I'd like to here, but, the usual John of new weight. We're going to work up to it. Just want to get the stretch, get the weight, get the tension, and we'll work on depth as we move through the 4 plates on either side. It's just like, it reminds me of my childhood. When we were all in high school, in junior high, and someone would change their MySpace profile song to something really sad and dramatic, and they'd be like, just want to be alone right now. Nobody message me. And maybe I'm being too cynical. Maybe this is perfectly acceptable and normal behavior. But I guess with this individual, look, I'm just not a fan of whining about your problems publicly generally, right? Going on Facebook with a bunch of people you might be close with, acquaintances, and then just like random people. It's like farming karma. Farming online karma with your drama, with your emo. I think people trend towards empathy. So if you want attention, the best way to get attention is with tragedy. Well, positive attention. I mean, you can also get a lot of attention by being problematic. But that's probably not the attention this individual is trying to garner, and that's what probably not the kind of attention most people want to garner. I think people are too addicted to likes on the internet. Too into the updates and that little boost of dopamine that they get when someone likes their Insta photo or likes their Facebook post or their Twitter, retweets their Twitter post and upvotes their thing on Reddit, and it's just like karma whoring all over the internet. Why do these things matter? Is it just like the validation that our thoughts are agreed with? You don't think that the human race has led really valued and objectively good lives before the internet existed, where people constantly validated all of our thoughts and feelings? How did we get to the point where, well, if all the people I interact with on a daily basis don't like my post about my theory that mushrooms are becoming sentient and are slowly taking over the planet, then nobody likes me, and nobody loves me, then my life is of no value. And maybe I'm not chronically online enough to really understand where this thought process is going, I guess. I had let's get another step before I tell another story to kind of illustrate why maybe I'm not the best narrator for this topic, but I see things online and I want to talk about them, so let's do it. All right. So, we're gonna pack up this exercise, and we're gonna head to adduction for my little story time as to why maybe I shouldn't be talking about this at all. Ooh. So next we're gonna do the leg curl. I was gonna do the hip abduction, but the machine is not functional, so no training to crush the skulls of the e-girls and e-boys today. Unfortunate. So we're gonna get in this leg curl, and I'm gonna tell my embarrassing little story. I think we're gonna do double leg today, because I think we did single leg last time, and I like to whip it up. So I didn't adjust the machine at all. That's my bad. Alrighty. So, my story. Basically, had an individual come into the place I worked. They recently bought a product from us that was going to basically help his wife who had stage 4 cancer. I see him 2 or so weeks later, right before we deliver the product, and comes in and he's like, "Hey, this is so-and-so." I didn't remember him at first, but he's like, "My wife and I came in, she has blah blah." And when he said the issue, I immediately remembered. I was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And he said, "Well, unfortunately, Martha passed away last night from her cancer." And I was just like, blank face, I don't know how to react to this. Because he immediately was just like, "Oh, but don't worry, we're going to keep it, the product, because it was the last thing she ever wanted." I was totally taken aback by that. One, I'm thankful they're keeping it, or I guess he, not they anymore. And, but I wasn't sad, I wasn't happy, I just had no emotion to the situation whatsoever. And I had no idea what to say. Like, in that moment, you're supposed to, be empathetic, I guess. But I didn't even know what to say. I think I said, "Oh." So maybe my head is not in the correct space to see people post their trauma on the internet and be genuinely understanding and empathetic to whatever they might be going through. Because kind of how I talked about in the car, that what I want to avoid is, I think you should be able to talk about your problems. However, in some capacities, I think posting your problems onto the internet for all of your friends to see is kind of just, even if you're saying, "Hey, nobody give me attention," it really is kind of crying, "I want attention," at least to me. Because going back to when you tell people your problems, it sucks when someone immediately, tells you their problems instead of being empathetic. Because my thought when I read a post like that, I would never say this to anyone. But anytime someone is upset about their parents passing away, their wholesome, loving, amazing parents, my immediate thought is, wow, you are so torn up that you lost this clearly great person in your life. And it honestly makes me upset, because I would trade the whole world to have had parents who gave any amount of fucks about me. But here you are a whole year later whining about how they're not around instead of celebrating the time you had. And that could be a disconnect of mine, right? Because we naturally want things we never had. And of course, I'm not mourning anything about my own upbringing. But man, I wish I could just give some people some perspective. I had a couple of people reach out to me after I put my first YouTube video up, and they were like, "Man, I watched your video, and it made me want to be a better parent. It made me really think about my kids more." And I think that's the point of it. A lot of people don't have the context. Some people do. My problems aren't unique, right? But I think most people have a fairly, on the spectrum, normal upbringing. And I just wish I could give them some alternate perspective, because the way I feel like if I could genuinely kind of show them what the opposite would have been, how grateful they might have been for what they had, right? You had someone who was a fantastic part of your life for over 30 years, and they passed away, and it's tragic. But man, you were able to have so many good times. It's crazy how you can be sad a year later about this. I'm not going to tell you your emotions are invalid, but just having some perspective. You had something amazing that not everyone is blessed enough to experience. And I think if you are religious and you do believe in something after life, this isn't going to help anyone. But they would not want you to be unhappy. They'd want you to celebrate the time you had together. They'd want you to move on with your life and those memories and those habits that you built from their presence in your life, and just live the best life possible. And continuing to mourn is not what they would have wanted. And you can tell people that all day, though, and it won't change anything. People go through their emotions differently. But that's what I would posit, because I think the one experience that most of us, like probably 99% of us, will go through is the fact that our parents will likely pass away before we do. And I guess my advice for this, to get away from the validation we're all seeking, for whatever reason we're seeking it, is celebrate the time you had with people, especially your parents, if they were good, inspirational beacons in your life. Because being sad for a very long time only does their memory disservice, I think. And you had something, again, that not everyone is able to. So celebrate that. Let's get us out. So back to the kind of greater compounded topic that we have there, because I think I've settled in my mind that this is just about perhaps the toxic validation that people need in their life, right? I don't like how people just can't live in the moment a bit, right? You go out to eat with a girl or a boy, I don't want to pigeonhole anyone, and they're immediately taking photos of their food to share on the gram, right? You go on a vacation, people, instead of enjoying the moment, their first inclination is, oh, let me take a picture of this. I think this is a statistic that I'm pulling completely right out my butt, but I feel like half the reason people want to do stuff in life is just to show other people that they're doing stuff. And it might not be about doing the stuff at all. Because I do stuff all the time, believe it or not. But I never take photos, I never take videos, I never document every second of the experience. Every second is an exaggeration, but just like being able to put a whole collage of photos together to show what I did or where I did it. And I get that, like, maybe it's for the memories of it, but if it was just for the memories, you wouldn't be posting them, right? I see people online who, hypothetically, they went on a trip to Italy, and they get back from their trip, they'll post their collage. A year later, they'll post the B-roll. A year later, they'll repost it. It's just like, maybe you're reliving the memory and missing it a bit, but it's also, it just feels like, hey guys, remember when I did this one thing that maybe some of y'all haven't done? Is that the motive? Maybe not. But I do think a lot of society is trying to impress a lot of society. Look what I bought. Look what I did. Look what I'm doing. Look how great my life is. And I think part of that mindset is why society is trending towards unhappiness, right? We have surveys. They're incomplete. Not enough people probably take them, but we chart happiness only for the last 50 or so years, I believe. And society is generally declining in day-to-day happiness. Is that probably somewhat due with the political climate and the economy and just general stress, perhaps? But now that we're able to be more connected than we've ever been, I would posit that you never knew what. Actually, pause. We've always, or for a very long time, have had the keeping up with the Joneses type conjecture, right? With just your neighbors, because that's who you would see. But now with the power of the internet, you're not just keeping up with the Joneses, you're keeping up with a lot more people. And when you're keeping up with a lot more people, I feel like that does lead to a lot more happiness, especially when society is kind of training us to compare ourselves to other people. Well, let's get a set. I think we're gonna do probably one more, and then we're gonna go on to, I guess, a calf raise. Man, I'm really kind of bummed out that I can't do the hip abduction. I'm trying to have the perfect legs, and when I can't train hip abduction, that's pushing me back from being able to have the perfect legs. I think that kind of brings up a good side conversation as to, is social media one of the worst things that's ever happened to us? Like, as a society? Man, because people already, I think, generally trend on living beyond their means. And then when you see, like, people who just have way more means than you, there's even more pressure to do things that maybe are not fiscally responsible. Is that everybody? Certainly not. Is it a lot of people? I would hazard a guess, yes. I also wish that when people were going through things and they, maybe they do secretly wish somebody would reach out, because I think with those drama posts on the internet are, like, how many people are realistically, unless your friends just operate completely different than mine. My friends know about my experience with mom and dad. They don't reach out to me on Mother's Day seeing if I'm all right, Father's Day seeing if I'm all right. Do you mean to tell me that all of your friends, or a significant portion of them, a number great enough, are reaching out to you to express condolences, that you would need to make a public post for your 2,000 or so friends on the internet? I just don't believe it. Also, never in my life have I received, even when I used to not really celebrate my birthday because it was kind of a problematic day for me, and I'm trying to come around to the idea of, the past is the past. If I don't allow myself to have a future, I can never have a future. But even though I would deactivate my Facebook so nobody could tell me, and I would never really talk about it all that much, anytime someone did remember and told me, I wasn't upset about it. In fact, it made me feel good that they cared enough to remember. Is that everyone? Maybe not. However, I just find myself having trouble to believe. I find myself having trouble believing that people showing compassion is not a warm spot in your life. Maybe I am cynical, but that's my thoughts on the drama internet posts. Nobody texts me right now, feeling eepy. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's get this last set. All right, and from here, we're gonna go to the seated calf raise. All right, you know the deal. New weight. This is significantly heavier than last time, I will say that. So 6 to 8 is the goal. 6 to 8 is the goal. Here we go. I fucking feel that. Excuse my language. Alright. So, we've established that maybe I'm not the most reliable narrator for this subject. However, just because I don't know that I'm necessarily qualified to talk about it doesn't mean I don't want to talk about things. Because that's where you, the commenters, come in. If you have a different perspective on this, I want to hear it, right? Because not only am I trying to help people navigate their own mindsets, I'm trying to navigate my own. And I don't have all the answers. I think it's crucially important, I kind of discussed in my last vlog, that we're able to have conversations. So if I don't agree with you and you don't agree with me, that's where we can come together, combine our minds, and I like to think that we're all mature enough to have an open mind on things, right? So maybe I'm not the best, most qualified, altruistic narrator for this topic, and perhaps we are seeking validation online when we complain about our problems and our trauma. I also would posit that it's not really fair to your friends, right? If you're going through a lot of very difficult, heavy things, just broadcasting them so publicly online, like maybe someone else lost a family member recently, and you're here, this person cares about you, and they're going through it already, and then you're like, hey, reminder, I lost my dad and it's making me upset. They care about you. So now they've taken on a little bit of your emotional weight because they're now thinking about your problems too. Should we care about our friends' problems? Yes. Should we maybe, hopefully, enjoy the idea that they could be there for us? Yes. But is it so strange that I think personal issues should be kept personal? I'm a hypocrite because I posted a YouTube video about mine, but I wanted to talk about stuff and also, I don't know, help people who might be in a similar headspace. Which is why I didn't make a video that was all just like, I suppose, drama and pain. I then kind of flipped it and said, well, this is what I'm doing, this is where it's going, this is how I'm shifting my mindset, blah, 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 blah. It's like, hey, this is how I can relate to you, and this is how we can fix it together. And I guess that's the purpose. And there's a difference between doing that and just going online and complaining about all the things that are going wrong, just so people can like your Facebook post. Let's get a sip. I think the most common place where we see the kind of portion of this topic of validation, and where you might need validation and you go to your partner for it and they immediately say, oh, but what about my problems and my issues, is probably revolving around relationships, right? You guys have been fighting, things have been toxic, and you finally find the courage to sit your partner down and say, hey, this is bothering me. I need some help. And then your partner follows up with, well, I'm glad that we're talking right now because I need some help. Nothing is more, I guess, beat you down than when you finally want to talk about things that are bothering you and the other person's like, cool, me too. I think it's important in our relationships with other people, be it romantic or otherwise, that you can be present for people's problems without making it about yourself. If you have something you need to talk about, there's a time and a place. And the time and place, in my opinion, is not when someone else comes to you. Is that conjecturous? Is that toxic? I don't know. But I guess for me, the way my mental works, I need to be able to go to my partner and say, hey, this bothers me. This has been nagging at me. And they be completely present and they work with me to address that problem. And then after we've addressed that problem, and if they have an issue too, we can then, talk about that. Because when you just immediately deflect, all it makes, at least me, and I would imagine more people, feel like is, as I've said millions of times, hey, cool, I see you have a problem, but here, let's talk about mine instead. I understand that you're struggling, but I'm struggling. Listen to me. And I don't think that's the path to progress. We see that societally too, in like the broader kind of landscape that we live in. We'll talk about, I guess, the problems culturally between different demographics of people, and when we'll say, hey, there's an issue with, say, like Asian Americans and violence, someone will immediately be like, oh, well, what about this other thing that we should be addressing too? And it's like, yes, that other thing is a problem, but one thing at a time. Can we just have a moment where this demographic of people is the most important? Because as long as we're just bringing up other narratives and other conversations when trying to address issues, you're just, again, just like the personal stuff, you're just stopping yourself from making progress. From here, we're going to do a leg extension after I unload all these heckin' plates. That's the problem with getting stronger. You then have so much more work to do in the gym too. So, we've kind of established that, at least in my opinion, publicly venting our issues and our problems is maybe not the best online. We've established that societally we need to listen, right? Like, our problems are important and we want validation for our problems. But if someone's coming to you first, right, we need to be open and we need to listen, right? Be there for others, and then others will be there for you. And I think, again, just like the seek first to understand, then to be understood kind of mantra that I have, if we all are coming at issues from a place of openness first, then we're always going to be able to get the help that we need, right? We're not in situations where we're completely shut down because this other person we're talking to is there for you, right? They're open and they're listening and they're seeking to help instead of being so wrapped up in their own problems that they can't think past them. Let's get our first set. We're going absolutely uber heavy today. I think the next kind of point, and maybe the last point I have for today, is why are we seeking this validation in the first place? And I think for most of us, it's because we're not getting validation from ourselves, right? Kind of going into the sphere of you have to be okay with being alone. You have to be okay with yourself, because if you're not okay with yourself, you're going to be constantly looking for other people to tell you you have worth, to tell you you have value. You need to be your own biggest fan, right? When you need a shoulder to cry on, you need to be able to cry on your own shoulder, right? If you're sad, go sit in the shower, listen to sad music, and kind of bask in the melancholy, right? Be there for yourself. Allow yourself to feel things. Because if you never let yourself feel anything, if you're not your own biggest fan, if you're not taking yourself out on dates, if you're not just perfectly happy with living alone, then you're never going to be happy, right? Because your happiness is going to be tied to other people's opinions of you. It's going to be tied to temporary little hits of dopamine that you get when you post on the internet, when you get a like on your page about being sad. When something outside of your life, outside of things you can control, project to you that you have value. And we want to get away from that because you have value outside of your drama, right? I was going to say trauma, but then I said drama and I'm just kind of rolling with it. You have value because you are you, and you need to find that value in yourself. Let's get a set. That's tough. I gotta have to say my catchphrase. I think one of the most important things, I kind of have some notes here, right, to really illustrate this, because I want to make sure that I talk about this in a way that I'm happy with when I'm editing it. But we need to realize that validation is not necessarily a weakness. It's basically you expressing yourself, right? A part of our internal mental state will forever be the same child that first came into existence. As your personality forms, as you grow, we all need to be supported and loved just like we did when we were children. And I think some of us who got more support and love maybe are more adapted to it, but it's like a spectrum. Too much of anything can be bad too, right? So identifying where we are and understanding why your mental is the way it is very important. And I don't want to give this narrative that validation is bad, because it's not. But the way we're expressing it might be a little bit. And what we all need to realize is that, kind of how I touched on just a moment ago, is you can get validation from anywhere, but the most important place you can get that validation from is yourself. You might not believe it at this point in your life, but it is true, right? And I think the most important part of this is, as we kind of talked about being alone and being comfortable with being alone, you have to set your sights small, achievable goals, right? Maybe it's waking up an hour earlier before work. Maybe it's getting your diet a little bit more dialed in. Maybe it's going for that walk that you had been wanting to embark upon after you get off of work every day. And just doing it, right? Doing that one small thing. And then being proud of yourself because you achieved it. And once you're comfortable achieving small things, and don't post about it. Don't you dare go on Facebook and post, I went on a walk today. Be proud of yourself. Sit in your chair, in your office, sit in your bed, whatever it is. Let yourself just have a smile and say, I did that. I woke up at 6 a.m. every single day, and I'm proud of myself. Because what happens if there's an apocalypse and there is no internet? You guys are going to be so starved for attention, you're not going to know what to do. And I'm trying to help you avoid that. But I think if we're being completely rational and real, I think too many of us don't know how to be happy with ourselves. So our natural inclination is to seek that happiness from strangers or friends or acquaintances or whatever it is online. And I think we'd be happier if we got away from that. Let's get a sip. Every time I make any kind of deep voice, I think of like Transformers, and I think about my cat Megatron. I think of a very specific quote in Transformers where Megatron is like, what would you be without me, Prime? And Optimus Prime, like the camera like pans on his face and he says, let's find out. And it's like, it makes the metal clink noise as his mask comes up. I think it was Revenge of the Fallen. No, it was Dark of the Moon. It's the one with Sentinel Prime in it. I don't know why. Let's just get a sip. Optimus Prime then proceeds to whoop Megatron's ass. If you haven't seen the movie. It's a hard line though. I'm not gonna cap. Optimus Prime got some zingers. I don't think I've drank enough water today. while I drink an energy drink the whole time I'm working out. I am part of my own problems. I think another pro tip for this journey of self-validation is refusing to set hard goals for yourself. Do not wake up tomorrow and say, I'm going to learn Mandarin. You're going to fail. And then you're going to, instead of having a positive experience with seeking this self-validation, you've now created something negative, right? I can't accomplish this, I can't accomplish that, these things don't work, that thing doesn't work. Only ever set goals that, if you were like to rank them on a bar of difficulty, from 1 to 10 hypothetically, if going on a walk, like every day after work for 10 minutes is like a 2 on the bar. Once you've accomplished that 5 days a week and you're happy with yourself, make sure your next goal is only like a 3, maybe a 4, right? Only one notch higher in difficulty than the previous thing you have achieved, right? We have to keep our goals realistic for our starting points. Otherwise, we run the risk of becoming discouraged, of failing, right? Because if you're not used to doing hard things, you best believe you're not going to be able to do hard things. And I think only you really know when it's time to push the bar higher, right? As you get more accustomed to achieving things, as you get more accustomed to validating yourself for your small accomplishments, you will know when you're ready to do something a little bit greater, a little bit harder. Don't let anyone push you. Don't let anyone rush you. Take your time. We're all on different journeys, at different speeds, at different altitudes, and only you can say what your progress looks like, right? Just because, I'm 30, just because there's other 30-year-olds who are like multi-millionaires and have families and blah, 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 whatever they've accomplished in life, who have a significantly better mental, wake up on time, have a more locked-in diet, that's got nothing to do with me. They're completely different people who had completely different circumstances. I like to believe that I am the best version of myself that I could be right now. And I think all of you are as well, right? You might have failed, right? You might have done some things wrong in your life up to this point. You might have made mistakes, hit some road bumps, didn't have the leg up maybe other people have. But you're only competing with yourself. Are you better than yesterday? If not, try to be. Set that goal for tomorrow. Just do one better thing tomorrow than you did today. Even if it's wake up 5 minutes earlier. Even if it's cook dinner instead of going out and getting food. And then you just increase that every single day, right? Just a little bit better than the day before. A little bit better than the day before. And sometimes we stumble. And sometimes we'll fall. But part of this growing journey, part of this self-validation is saying, you know what? Yesterday was tough. Yesterday was hard. And I didn't make any progress. But tomorrow I will. I needed a break today. I couldn't make dinner. I couldn't go for that walk. Whatever it was. And that's okay. Because I deserve a break every now and then. And I think once you can accept yourself with your flaws and your shortcomings, you accept that you didn't have every opportunity that other people did, and that the only person you're really competing against is yourself. You allow yourself to stumble. You allow yourself to take a break. And then you just, when you can, when you're able, push forward. You'll start to feel like you don't need validation from others because you are valuable just because you are you. Let's get this last set in. We're done. So, we're going to pack it up. We're going to go to the car. Well, that is going to be another wrapped up gym therapy, also leg day. I had a lot of fun with this one. It kind of overlapped with some of the topics that we've had before, but I think there's going to be a lot of that going forward. I think the nature of this channel is, and I think societal problems broadly, is there is a lot of overlap, right? A lot of things that we go through are interconnected with other things. And sometimes kind of pinning down individual, like, subgenres is important, right? I don't have a really long outro, I think, for this. I guess just to like pin off my positivity, I think that it is important to establish your values and your sense of integrity rather than being liked by others. Think about what matters to you in the world, how your actions can align with those values. Think about how you can build your self-respect so that you can see yourself enacting the deeper values that you value. Try to evaluate the praise that you get from other people as it relates to those deeper values. Are you praised for your looks, your material possessions, or is it something deeper, like your character or personality? Are you praised for providing real value to others through service? Perhaps aligning yourself to cherishing and valuing the praise that you get for the value that you provide others. It will more than likely help you build a more positive self-image, because when we're praised for things that are surface level, like being good looking, being funny, that isn't who we are, right? If your whole self-image is the fact that you are funny, if your whole self-image is the fact that you are a 10, you'll never find true happiness, because maybe people's definition of funny is going to change. Maybe people's definition of what good looking is going to change. You might not be good looking later on in life. I think the way to be truly happy with yourself is to find the value in those deeper things. I think if we're relying on society's perception and acceptance, we're playing a losing game. It's the reality that people are going to change incessantly over time. The definition of beauty, the definition of intelligence, and so many other things have broadly changed, even in the course of our own lifetime. So if you put your self-worth into something that has no foundation, and understanding the fact that people are indeed unreliable, you're playing that losing game. Another anecdotal kind of story is the same people who used to bully me for wearing glasses and liking Star Wars and kind of being very into things that were unpopular are the same people posting about it on social media today. They're wearing glasses just for the fashion of it, even though they have no eye issues, right? These same people who never really wanted to have anything to do with me when I was younger reach out and want to be my friend. Society itself, I think, by definition, and with my anecdotal story, I think, and if you think about it yourself, you'll realize that it is indeed unreliable. So if we're focusing on finding that value in ourselves, if we're focusing on getting validation from ourselves, then we're going to be able to have a truer love for ourselves. And you won't need to make your cringy little posts on Facebook, right? So I'm going to break my rule that I've kind of set out, that you don't need validation from others and you need to find it from yourself, because every now and then it is good to hear it from others. And even if you're at the beginning of your journey, I am here, like I've said before, every step of the way. You're amazing because you are you. Every single one of us has innate potential, innate value that is so powerful and so untapped that, quite frankly, it could be a bit scary, right? You could be the next Mozart. You could be the next Beyonce. You could be the next Picasso, the next Albert Einstein. It's not too late, and it's not that you don't have the potential. I think we largely put too many roadblocks in our own way because society has convinced us of our lot in life. You were born low class, you'll be low class. If you're born middle class, you'll be middle class. We see it's so rare to see someone escape the shackles of their birth that it seems impossible to us. But it happens, right? It does, genuinely. And I think once you allow yourself to believe that it could be you, that you could be the next famous painter, that you could be the next musical arranger, the next C-bum, like whatever like you value in life, whatever you think, this thing that you love, even if it's, laying squares of concrete in people's backyards, You can be the best at it. You could be the guy who does that, the girl who does those things. Because your whole life is potential. Every day that you wake up is another day to better yourself. And you have an opportunity uniquely your own, because only you are you. To wrap up this episode of Gym Therapy, I hope we can seek less validation online and find more validation from ourselves. Maybe perhaps not trauma dump on the people around us because we want that validation, right? Listen to other people's problems when they have them and they are close to us and they matter. And put your problems on the back burner for a second, right? Let people have their moment, and then they can let you have yours. You are unique, and you are valued, and you're beautiful just the way you are. And if you take small steps to better yourself, you'll be happier than you have ever been. So with that being said, I'm always rooting for you guys, and I'll see you on the next episode of Gym Therapy.